Hey folks, how's it going? Let's make sure that's, yeah, seems reasonable. Let's get the background audio. A little bit stuttery. Why is it recording as well? That's not going to help. That looks better. Much better. Okay. Somehow I managed to start recording as well as stream at the same time. That's okay. Still streaming to Twitch, still streaming to YouTube. Cool. Hopefully everyone's had a good weekend and enjoying their Monday so far. I'm just going to do a little bit of Blender into Unity integration. Switch over and so work with this model again. Make sure I've got the bot up so I can see chat. So we've got our have our rock golem. We have a follow cam. We need to give it some behavior now. So we got that's the camera, then the camera. We've got states, so we can write a little bit of script that will change the state. So update. Yeah, so on update, if the state is walking, then we want it to move forward. If the state is idle, then we want it to be not moving. If make walk, so that's just like a debug. So let's make a note that that's a debug function. What's the AI suggestion? Yeah. I'm not quite sure there because the user's not going to be moving this. There you go. Dev feature test walking animation. So is it? The Copilot can be smart sometimes. So let's have a thing. What's he gonna need? He's gonna need some triggers, really, isn't it? So something to kind of trigger off these different states. So one trigger is going to be like the player characters, I suppose, or for testing purposes, we'll just need a generic trigger block, I suppose, that we can call player for now. So that's going to have to go into the update. So will it go into the update? Right, I'm still not entirely sure on writing event calls. So it could be an event call. It could be when because it's the what is it? It's the collision, the collider. So if the collider, we have the collider here. When the collider triggers, that can then change the state. We can change the state into one of the others, depending where it is. Yo, it's been a while. Hey, boss, how's it going? It's good to see you. It does feel like it's all... Stream's been a little bit sporadic anyway. It's a cat. Cat always likes to hang out with me until I start talking to people. He's like, nope, nope. There's too many words being spoken. I shall close that door. What you working on? We were coming up with some behaviour. Let's turn the background music down a little bit. Working on some behaviours for this this NPC. So I'm thinking this needs to have some kind of collider object. Maybe if I make a separate object to sit inside this column, that will be a collider, and I can use that, reuse that collider onto other NPCs. Just thinking what the best way of doing that. So I'm hesitant. Like, the easy thing is to put everything into a check on the update statement. So because this function runs every frame, I don't want to put too much in here. Obviously walking, you want to apply a velocity to the item, the object. If it's walking but the state is not walking, then basically say, well, it has no movement. But we can have a trigger on something entering its space. Hey, Jeffrey, real gangster. How's it going? Hope you've had a good day so far. I suppose the collider could be an object that it kind of pulls in. So we'll make a collider object. Doing good, glad to hear. So Michael Roxon, behavior stuff already. Progress. Do be progressing indeed. Watching anime, working on some graphics for a new project. Ooh, exciting. Yeah, let's throw a random shape into the world. So we go 3D object. Cylinder. So we throw a cylinder into the world. So we have a cylinder. So we want to reshape the cylinder. The dude that visited me yesterday, I make heavy metal with. I also want to have a separate death metal project with. Made the Bandcamp graphics for that day. Oh, okay. You send. Let's have a look. Oh, nice. That's really cool. I like that. I want to squish this down this way and kind of expand outwards. Probably something along those lines, I'd say. I'm feeling a special kind of terrible, so I'm going to head out. Quickly popped in to enjoy working on Michael Roxon. Thank you for hanging out, even though it was a short time, but I do appreciate that. I hope you're feeling a bit better soon. Can't be having you being ill, but I appreciate it. I'll see you next time. I suppose. What is going to be the sensor range of this thing? It's going to be quite a lot. Let's say about that, maybe. we zero out its zero out those proportions and drop it inside of the golem. There we go. That's better. Do need that cylinder to be raised back up again now, but that's fine. And we'll hide the cylinder for the moment. Make sure he is standing on the ground. He is indeed. It does have a capsule collider, which is ideal. Because I'm not sure you can see very well in the stream, but you've got this like greeny white arcing lines. So if anything goes within this space, this wire space here, I can get it to trigger off. I wonder if I like Pokemon tomorrow. Hopefully. It's Pokemon, if you take away the anime element of it, take away the cutesiness of it, it is just an RPG, but rather than leveling yourself, you level your creature companions. So it's, if you liked any idea of creature collection, then battling, especially Final Fantasy, you can end up battling your GFs, don't you? At least in the older ones. So same sort of principle. But Platinum is a good one. Certainly for the classics. I could say you could go. Yeah, it's. So you had gold and silver, and then platinum. So platinum was the definitive version from the gold and silver. So it had all the tweaks to make the best of that generation. No, I really enjoyed that because that was Generation 2. Oh, sorry, yeah. Pearl and Diamond, sorry. Gen 4. Yeah, I was thinking of, what was I thinking of? Yeah, I can't be. Yeah. That, Pearl and Diamond. So Pearl and Diamond were the last ones of the older graphical styles, I think. Never ended up playing Pearl and Diamond. It should be pretty cool. I want to go back and play through them all again. We've been playing all the recent ones. I've got Procopia on my Switch 2. And that's not really much of a Pokemon game as much as it is just building and restoring villages. And there's Pokemon. So that's pretty cool. It's a good adventure game. Very low stakes kind of thing. But it's cool, kind of like Minecraft on the creative mode. Hey Lisa, sell emotes. Oh, those awesome emotes there. Oh, there you go. Well, I'm a peanut bar and I'm here to say your checks will arrive on another day. Another day, another dime, another rhyme. Another dollar, another stuffed shirt with another white collar. Criminals Wall Street taking the pie. And all the black men gets is a plate of white lies. Prison recruiting them. These be shooting them. Rap artists looting them. Labels be diluting them. Barack Obama is scared of me because I don't swallow knowledge. I spit it for free. Let me clear my throat. Ah ha ha ha. I quite like those lyrics. This is from Community. Ah, nice. I shall have to look it up. Like, I know I've seen a couple of episodes of Community, but it's definitely on my list of to watch shows. I don't need a mesh renderer active. Late season, I think 5. Okay. Make that a trigger because we don't want to collide with that. Did our 30th something rewatch this week. Now we watch one anime. Then we start Doctor Who. Ooh, exciting. Yeah, see what you think about Doctor Who. I say it's a sci-fi that's very much grounded in human connection. And that's generally goes for all the Doctor Who's. It's very much about sort of an outside perspective on human society. Right, so we have a trigger there. Let's call this cylinder something more meaningful. So this is a, let's call it a NPC alert trigger. Let's do that. So I could write a little bit of code just for this. What is the law of these things? Of these rock golems? How do they reproduce? Do they grow out of other rocks? Do they mate? Are there genres more than 2? Or genders more than 2? So they very much genders, yes. Very much magic based. So magic exists in the world. It's so it's going to kind of expand into the greater lore of things for why these things exist. But as part of nature, magic exists, and kind of it's how the wind blows, how fires burn, how water flows, kind of thing. Magic is tied into all of that. But beyond your standard elemental things we have in the real world, there's the extra magic, such as the formation of rocks. And so if there's a high concentration of that magic, so we can kind of take on a semi-sentience and pull many rocks together to form this humanoid kind of creature, I suppose. So they don't really have any desires. They don't really eat. I suppose they can absorb minerals if need be, but I suppose if there's magic imbued into a rock, in that rock then ends up sitting with other rocks, and that magic can spread. Now, in theory, you could separate all of these individual rocks from this, and it will kind of lose its form because it would need that high concentration of magic. Think of it almost like a ghost, a magic ghost, I suppose. And it just happens to inhabit this form. So it just kind of takes on this sentience. But I haven't really considered what drives these things. They just kind of wander. They just kind of exist. No agendas, no mating. No. No. I say it's all. I suppose if it's roaming areas with a lot of rocks, I'll mod it in. Yeah, the dating mod. Data rock golem. But no, these things kind of just exist. Now, there's a little bit more lore to other. Well, I think out of all the things I've come up with, this has probably got the least amount of lore. Which I suppose makes it easy to kind of play with and build and stuff. But that's that little rock pet thing I made initially before this. That's kind of got a little bit more to it, but it's still a rock that has sentience bestowed upon it from magic. Let's go to the script. I wonder if I can call it as an object like that. So let's go public collider. Do it this way. So we now have a collider thing now. Can we then drag that as the collider? Yes. MC alert trigger collider. Okay. So we can now do a private void on trigger. Okay, so that's where we can do some stuff here. Okay, so this isn't exactly what I want, but it's pretty close. So on trigger enter. So So that's passing in a collider. Can I actually just put... Let's go let's go collider.compare tag. Yeah, so I don't need the other in there. So if the tag has player, so I think the first thing it needs to do, if it detects a player, it needs to target the player. So rather than attacking only happens when it's within a certain distance of the player. So it might need an inner kind of... Well, I suppose it can do it by distance to target, can't it? So if it knows its target, it knows where it is. It goes, well, how far away is it from the target? If it's within a certain range, then sort of attack. If it's not within a certain range, get within a certain range. So attacking isn't quite the right thing there. And disassembling isn't quite right either. Because if the player has exited the alert range, it's probably the player's probably trying to run from it. So what it would need to do is probably, as you have with a lot of games, like the last known location of a player. So if the player's running away in a straight line and runs outside of that zone, the new target will be the point at which the player left the trigger zone, like the alert zone. It will move to that, and then is the player within that zone still, or if the player turns up in that zone, then it will continue back onto this trigger thing. But if it moves to the last known location and there's still no player, then the player's got away. What races will your game have? Quite a few races. I might have overdone it slightly, but I can build this in modules. Like the races typically exist per biome, which makes basically the way I've kind of designed this is that I can do this in kind of in module. Elves, orcs, dwarves, Asians, black people. Yeah, it's got to have the fantasy races in there. See if I can bring up my Trello without it causing me issues. Wants me to log in. Okay. Now, is this the right Trello account? Probably isn't. But yeah, I've basically gone for the standard fantasy races, plus a few I've made up myself. So I'll bring up my Trello board and I can there it is. Verifying my account details. Ah, it is the right account. Awesome. I have 2 Trello accounts. And I got the right one, which is awesome. Here we go, it's my races here. If I bring this over to here, I can see In Elder Scrolls, black people actually are a different race besides a regular human. So are Nordic people, by the way. Black people are called Redguards. Ooh, okay, I wasn't aware of that. That's pretty cool. Now, I have thought about humans. Humans typically exist everywhere. Like, my thoughts, like, humans are very much colonial. So they've spread throughout existence. But the fantasy races are the natives, so to speak. That makes sense. Nordic people are Nords. Oh, that is it is definitely original. So the races I have are humans. So again, yeah, humans are pretty much everywhere. Maybe slightly. So I'm gonna try my best to kind of gear their skin tone based on the environment. Like following real life examples, if something is somewhere is colder and less sun, then their skin will be paler. If the environment is hotter or more sun, their skin will be darker. Because that's just generally how skin tone works. So yeah, humans are the main race, they're everywhere. We have elves, and elves exist in a few places. So again, elves are very human-like, but have longer lifespans, and amid gingers, they scare me. Yeah, there might have to be some ginger dwarves, because dwarves are very much based on the northern people of the British Isles. But yeah, it's going to be elves, dwarves. Now, dwarves are mainly going to be in kind of rocky or hard environments. Anywhere that's got a lot of hard materials, then the dwarves will be there. You know why? Because social anxiety, because of social anxiety, I was taught to look at eyebrows so I wouldn't have to look in people's eyes, but they think I do, but gingers don't have them, so panic. Yeah, it's very hard. Like, over the years, my eyebrows have got sort of darker, but when I was younger, you could hardly see my eyebrows either. But I'm certainly not ginger, but my hair is so light, it matched my skin. But yeah, I generally try and look at people's noses. So yeah, you got the elves, the dwarves. Now, here's one of the made-up races. I call them the Bambusai. And they're basically panda folk. Sounds Asian, yes. They're pandas. So they walk around on their hind legs. Epic, yes. Their architecture will be Asian inspired. Epic. They will be mainly living in forests. But Asian inspired architecture. Most of them will be farmers because they very much live off the land. They're very in tune with nature. But there will be one or two that have abilities outside of that. So there'll be more kind of there isn't going to be really any warrior class Bambusai. But there will be some that you could encounter that may decide to be more kind of combative. Last Saturday I made ramen noodle myself. So not instant, but actually healthy soup. Proceed to pick in chat. Ooh. It's been so long since I've had ramen. Oh, that looks gorgeous. I like how you... I know sometimes they only give you half an egg with ramen. You've got them... Yeah, let's go for 2 eggs in there. That looks very filling. That looks last year a good day. Without needing to eat much. I'm putting lichens or werewolves. So they're going to be in typically sort of a moon-based realm. So it's going to be mostly dark, nighttime. So the werewolf lichen race will be sort of around there. They're not going to be bad kind of people to meet, but they're a bit more animalistic. And a lot of them will be able to be human form. So they're kind of in there for that. To pair up, because it's always a trope. But where the werewolves will be, the vampires will be as well. There'll be, again, vampires and werewolves are effectively humans, but it's not to say they could just be human. They could be other races which have been turned. But yeah, vampires and werewolves. Fairies. I'm going for a little bit of a mix between your kind of your nice kind of forest fairy and more the folklore fairy. So it's kind of going to be, for the most part, they might seem nice, but then still mischievous and not to be trusted. So they're going to be, I'm thinking they're going to be in the similar areas to the Bambursai. Sort of foresty kind of areas. Because I come up with these names, I don't know how I'm going to pronounce them. The Pasiphae. The Pasiphae are basically bird-like people. They live in a floating city because the ground below is hostile, and they prefer to stay safe in the air. So they live in floating city, which is held in the air through kind of an enchanted stone-based engine, I suppose. Like there's a like a crystal which is imbued with like air magic, like wind magic, and that's kind of lifting the whole city up. There'll be something that involves a crisis around this stone. Because it could be the point where the city might be at jeopardy of falling down to the ground. So I'm thinking that'd be quite an interesting story to follow through. Orcs or goblins? I've not gone for orcs. I thought orcs were a bit too stereotypical. Goblins, I think I have got goblins on the list. Yes, you do dwell elves and dwarves there. Yeah. I like elves and dwarves. Maybe orcs could be more of an enemy-based race as opposed to every race I'm naming so far will have friendlies. Like you can talk to them, you can do missions and stuff. Now, there's not really envisioned to do a quest on behalf of an orc. But I've not really come up with... Well, there's going to be good and bad people in each of the races, because that's typically an entire race isn't good or bad. It's a mixture. And I feel orcs are very much labelled as just the bad guys. Did come up with the brassoids. You mean short debbies? Yeah. Come up with the brassoids, which are easiest thing to imagine is you think C-3PO from Star Wars, but a lot more crude in its construction and design. Built as basically mechanical slaves for a more technologically advanced society, but not technology advanced enough to make them look good. They're just very much thrown together like, okay, we have just enough technology to put together a kind of robotic human. But yeah, they're put together, and some of them have kind of escaped their purpose and gone on to have their own society. Should make nudist albinos, but they live in snow so no one can see them. I could make some more snow creatures. I do have frost folk, which I suppose are the Norwegians. But yeah, it's going to be a human-like race, which are basically adapted to live in very cold conditions. They aren't strictly human, but they're mostly human. But I don't really have a special name for them. They're just the frost people at the moment. But they could be some kind of naked mole creature that exists within that area. But it'll be very cold without any fur. You might have a very thick leathery skin, I suppose. Do have gnomes. And I do have goblins. And I was reading into the mythology and the folklore on gnomes and goblins. And a lot of mythology actually follows both goblins and gnomes back to the same kind of roots. Like a gnome and a goblin is effectively the same thing in folklore. But we know gnomes typically, at least in the UK, as short-bearded beings with a pointy hat. Whereas goblins are short, sort of nearly hairless things. Hey, newbie editors, how's it going? Good to see you. Hope you're having a good Monday. Hi man, just downloaded Blender. What do you next to learn? Or is that what do you do next? There's a best thing I can recommend is going to be finding some quick tutorials on YouTube to make some basic stuffs. That the one everyone points to on Blender is the donut, but the donut tutorial is very much kind of everything in one, like the shaping, the the modifiers, the lighting. So if you can do the donut tutorial, you learn most of the features that you could use. Or you just kind of find another tutorial that just does a basic thing. But it's good that you're learning Blender though. Blender is an awesome free tool. I closed the code screen. I built this this rock dude out of Blender. So we just imported him into Unity. And I'm seeing if I can actually make something out of it. If I need anything changing, I have to go back into Blender. So far, I think I've done everything I need to do. So I've been going back and forth a few times. I will need to go back into Blender and fix one of the animations, because the animations I've done in Blender. You could do the animations in the game engine, but it's a little bit different to work with. What other creatures? I've got the Atlanteans. The Atlanteans are kind of it's a done thing, but I thought, you know what, there's not much you can do with an underwater race of people. So they're going to be kind of adapted humanoids, like humanoid kind of race that adapted to living and breathing and swimming underwater. I'll come up with the Pyrokin. Again, humans that have adapted to exist in very hot climates and kind of, to a certain extent, harness fire and heat. Like Zora. To remind myself. You mean like from Avatar? Am I thinking of the wrong one? But yeah, they're basically firebenders. The Pyrokin. Who's this one coming up with? Glyphwin. The Glyphwin are mole people. So they kind of live underground and very typically the environment's not great, so they live and get resources underground. Thanks, man. No props, UV editors. I'm going through generally my plan for what I'm going to build, so I've got a lot of stuff to build in Blender. So it could be a busy few months. I need to build every single one of these races I'm mentioning. Kobolds. I'm thinking about doing kobolds, which are like lizard dragon people. I may or may not. I don't know. The Isbrinians. Ice giants. Basically, sort of, they live in extreme cold. Almost human-like, but they're very tall. Kind of a a bluish tint to their skin. And the last one on my list of ideas is the Noctwix, which are small owl-like goblins. Don't have any wings. They have feathers rather than fur, and sort of like claws, but they don't fly. But they kind of typically move around in darkness. So yeah, that's the races I've come up with. Again, I don't want to use too many fancy races, but I've gone with the elves, the dwarves, werewolves, vampires, fairies. As your typical fancy races. Then gnomes, goblins are typically seen in a lot of fancy stuff, and the others are kind of, none of this is too original, but I'm hoping I can do an original spin on it. So again, if you probably need quite a intensive and dedicated team of people to come up with something 100% original. Even then, it'll be comparable to other works. So we'll keep working that. For now, we have this rock dude. We'll go back to this this kind of behavior. So if it detects a player, and the first thing it needs to do is see if the state is idle. If the state is idle, then it needs to assemble. So that's the first thing it needs to do. So we do a switch statement. So switch current state. So if it's idle, we want to do the assembling. So we'll do assembling, and that'll switch from idle to awake. If it is already awake, let's put some extra line breaks in here. If it's already awake, this is when we want to then target the player. So the target is... Do we have a target? We do have a target. Target there, yeah. So when you want to assign the target, so if it's awake, we want target equals collider transform position. So whatever touched the collider that has the tagged player, which typically should be a player, we'll grab that position and we'll go, that is now the target. The thing is, that is going to capture that's going to capture the position that the player was at the point of entering, which isn't a bad thing. I think this is something we want. So if we go back to this here, so if a player walks in from the side down here, comes in from the left hand side, it needs to know that the player is on its left, in which case it needs to turn, face the player. So that's going to be a good start. It might sound harsh, but not trying to be mean. But with this many ideas in lore, will you ever do this with 3 hours of work a day? And other games have full teams. I'll definitely be able to do something. But the idea I have is to have a lot of templates. So build us some templates. And then a lot of what I've come up with is very much the same but. So even this rock dude, I have a few things which are like this rock dude, but not. That makes sense. That the basics of what I'm doing this rock dude, I can copy paste onto other things. So, but humanoids, a humanoid race is pretty much the same, just with different coloured skin, slightly different shaped heads, probably longer arms. It's clothing. I think clothing is going to be the longest thing. So once I get better at doing clothing, I think I could probably spend a solid bit of time just clothing the NPCs and people. So I think that's going to take a long time. Making naked races, that's going to be pretty quick. That's why I've only really stuck with like kind of humanoid stuff. Like sort of an elf is a human that's probably slightly taller with pointy ears. A dwarf is a human which is shorter. And the pandas are kind of humans which are slightly wider, a little bit shorter, maybe. Rounder faces and white fur. Werewolves, again, humans, a bit more muscular, have a wolf's head and claws rather than hands. Some vampires are humans, but with fangs. Fairies are just tiny humans with wings. And so like even the gnomes are the short people. So a lot of these, they're not too far off something else. I've not really cast my net too wide on what I want to put in here. As far as the creatures, I have rock golem, a lava golem, an ice golem. I have an ent, which again is just a tree golem. So most of what I've got to do is designed to be quick, rinse and repeat. But some of it's going to be a bit more complicated. Like some of these creatures I've come up with are going to be quite unique. So that's will take some time up there. But if it's a four-legged creature, then it's not much different from another four-legged creature. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of work. Definitely going to be a lot of work. But I'll be referring to different writing, referring different writing to different people. So it won't be 100% myself. But there is certainly a lot to make. There's another reason why I'm taking my time with this rock dude. Because if I get this one right, and then just have to change his appearance, then I've got a lava rock dude. Or a nice rock dude. And I then have three NPCs for the price of one. So again, all this code here is copy paste. Right, so we've grabbed the position. I think we need to grab the player as well. So we have a target for where it wants to look or go to. I think we need a public game. Did it work this way? Player, yeah. Game object player. So I think at the same time we want to actually grab the player as well as where they currently are. So player is equal to collider.gameObject. So we get where the player is, and we actually grab the player itself. So this means this first one will find where the player was when it first triggers its location. And we should be able to keep checking where the player has moved to. So because the rock golem is slow moving, it's not going to be able to follow the player very easily. So it'll keep checking this position periodically and go, where is the player now? They're over there. Move to that position, the player's moved, go to where it is now. So you could effectively run circles around this thing. It's not very smart, it's just a pile of rocks. So because of that, we do want to then have a system for re-updating target. So let's put it into here. So if player is not null, direction, vector direction, and player.transform position minus transform position. Okay, so that should find the direction. Look rotation. Look rotation direction. Transform rotation equals slurp or slurp? Spherically linear interpolates between unit coordinations A and B by a ratio of t. Returns a unit coordination spherically interpolated between coordinations. There's many words. Basically, it turns to look at the player. Now I think we want to make these appear as private values. We can keep reusing rather than defining it every loop, because that could be quite resource intensive. Private coordination. Okay. What we will need to do eventually is zero out these values. So so when it loses uses a player. We want to then player is null. So we've got target. So I think what it needs to do now, what kind of behavior do I want it to follow the player directly, which is what this is doing here. So no matter where the player is, this will follow it as it moves. The alternative is to grab the position and move towards it, and then determine is the player still here. So I feel that might be easier. I reckon it would be easier for the player if you basically just have to run in one direction and then move around it. Kind of lead it off in the opposite direction. Whereas this current code, if you run past it, it will rotate on the spot effectively to always face you. And that to me feels too responsive. Like, these things aren't that fast. So if a player is not null, we actually want the target in there. So this value here, we only want to update the target to that value. Let's grab that for now. Go target. So this means it will always face where the player was. I think periodically it needs to basically update where the player is in its mind. So we need a kind of a countdown delay. This way this update function builds very quickly. And so once I've built this system, this will apply to all the enemies. All the enemies will have either this code with the direct following, or this alternative code I'm making now with the delayed following. So make a note of this. So delayed rotation to face the player. And I can put it within here actually, because we want the target to recall the player transform position, but only after a timeout. So how many frames? So let's make a value up here that we can work off. Player collider, let's put it public. Rotation speed could be useful. We'll throw that in there. public. Yeah, attack range. I was going to do that as well. Public. Scan range. I'll put that in there. May or may not use that. Awake range. No, because that's covered by the trigger field. So the scan range could easily be covered by the field as well. What was I going for? It's an int, isn't it? Int. Player target delay. We'll make that 10. So player retarget delay. Make a private down here. So private. Private int me target counter. Yeah, let's do that. So if retarget counter is greater than player retarget delay, greater or equal to, then target set, otherwise target plus plus. Yes. I'll remove this note. So there. So in other creatures, I can disable this code here and just have that line instead. That means it'll be instant. So faster enemies will just use that. Slow enemies will use the whole thing. So in theory, I shouldn't have to do too much coding. If I do this right, everything will be the same code. It's just the Blender stuff. Now I should be able to test this at this point. Let's see if there's anything that would stop me from testing it. So what have we got? We've got the... If it's idle, then it needs to assemble. And if it's awake, could be... So if this only triggers once it's in the range, if the player remains in the range of the golem, it won't re-trigger this. So I almost need to... Can I reset the trigger? M_collider. Oh, that's an interesting suggestion there. Get a component player controller, take damage. Not in this instance, but will be useful later on maybe. Collider. Close. No. Does that work? Reset collide to evolve multiple triggers. I'm not sure if it would avoid multiple triggers. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I think when I quit smoking, I also need to quit drinking for a while, since drunk equals more nicotine per. I've heard this. Like, people can be basically have quit smoking and then they have a drink and that craving just comes back. But I'm not addicted to alcohol, so that won't be hard. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I've heard it's what they refer to, not necessarily drink, but refer to it as social smoking. You smoke in social situations when you're drinking, you're around people, you just feel to kind of blend in. It just seems to be more natural. Nicotine not looking forward to. Yeah, I don't social smoke at all. I smoke 24/7, so it's less about social. Yeah. From what I've heard, nicotine is quite a hard one to get off. Like, it's a fairly easily kind of sidestep from smoking tobacco to vaping, but you're still not solving the nicotine issue. Hi dudes, hey Petru, how's it going? Hope you're having a good Monday. Welcome into the stream. We're just doing some a little bit of coding to manipulate our Blender model. I don't know whether this trigger will go off again. We'll just have to see what happens. I think it could all go wrong. It could go right. We don't know. Let's save the project. We'll give it a test. Like, it won't. In theory, it shouldn't do anything because there's nothing to trigger it. Be right back. Dog walk. Okie dokie. I'll see you shortly. Right. No triggers. It just sits there. Does nothing. State, there you go. It's in an idle state by default. Yes, be right back, okie dokie. So it's currently in idle. So what I need to do is to create an object and call it a player. So we hit stop on that for the moment. What I will do is drag this down here to make this NPC alert trigger its own thing. I can use that on other NPCs then. Let's make a 3D object. Let's make it a cube. Something nice and basic. Everyone knows a cube. So have a cube. Shall rename this cube player, and this cube will have a rigid body to it, and we'll have mass. And we'll tag this as a player. So this cube is now a player. Let's make life a little bit easier. Let's get this ground to be wider. A bigger kind of play area. Move the player. Let's move the player over here. So we need to move the player away from the golem. Save. If we hit run, that cube should fall to the ground in theory. Yes, the cube's on the ground. Cool. Now, if I've coded this right, as soon as this cube enters the area around that, it should turn to look at it. Okay, it's not working. So we're going to have to have a look at the code. So if I put a debug log in here, so on trigger enter. So this will tell me if the trigger's been. I suppose it doesn't actually pull, it's not firing because it's not got its own. Yes, it's got on controller on trigger enter. We want it, let this M collider, we want it to be that. We put that in there. You want to pass the collider. You want it to react to the collider. So what happens if we have multiple colliders? We want to define. Let's have a quick Google on this. I want to be able to specify what that trigger relates to. Unity on trigger. Enter. Well, when collider with the collider's trigger property overlaps another collider, yes. When trigger enter is invoked when two game objects with a collider component touch or overlap. I haven't got a collider on player. Let's do that. I do, I've got box collider. Okay. Trigger collider doesn't register collisions with an incoming rigid body. Doesn't register collisions with an incoming rigid body and doesn't collide with any other game object. I have colliders on. The events are invoked during simulation, which happens after all fixed update methods are called, or in the scope of a physics simulation. Any collider on a game object that has a rigid body component or on a child of a game object with a rigid body component can create on trigger events. Okay, yeah, so it's got a collider and it's got a rigid body. So the player cube that I have would trigger it. This object will reverse direction, speed. Okay, but can I specify which collider it is? Specific collider, there we go. How do you trigger a specific collider using on trigger enter? That's what I want. New to Unity, C#, I'm wanting to have a prefab which has two colliders. One for general detection of triggers, one specifically used with other prefabs and trigger. So am I using the trigger thing wrong then? Remove the attacking everyone, we don't need that anyway. Alternative is I just put the collider straight onto the model. I hope I can pass the collider. I suppose the collider would be for comparing. So Unity on trigger enter. Unity on trigger enter child collider. Okay, this kind of be where I'm after. I have to understand one fundamental thing about triggers. Triggers don't create on trigger messages, only rigid bodies do. Thus we need at least one rigid body to even have such messages firing. So child colliders are not compound colliders, but they are You can't prevent that. The only way to know which of the child triggers got triggered is put a kinematic rigid body on each of your child objects and script that retrieves the corresponding untriggered messages. Put a script on the other object you want to detect. That way you get the trigger message on that object with reference to child collider. Okay, so it's not really a child, it's a parent collider I have. So it's not possible to do it this way, I'll do it. Collider on child game object parent. Biggest parent. No. Calling on trigger into well, rigid body and collider are attached to the parent. I think that's what I'm doing. I have a script on my parent transform. My child transform, the 3D model has a rigid body and a collider. Can I use this script on the parent? Yes, on the awake script you need to get components of the child game object. From there you can call anything you want for the child reference. As I know, it's called back only on the specific object, so in your case you need to put a script on it and attach it to, then redirect it to where you want. Well, I mean, all the bots are out. Oh, cool. Ceribot got it before I could even get there. Awesome. So I think unfortunately then I'm going to have to finish compiling the scripts, thank you. So yeah, so this collider capsule. Really going to have to unpin this from here. Wait for this streamer bot to open so I can actually close it again. So I have to copy this collider from here. Copy component. Go to the golem. Not copy between objects. Okay, fine, we'll just add a capsule collider. Oh, because the thing's upside down. I need to go back to Blender and fix the model, because this has caused me a lot of issues. Let's do that for now. It's not what I want, but it'll do. Move that. That's got no collider now. Welcome back. It's got quite a wide radius there, so let's turn that off. Go save. See if this works. Actually, we need to collider over. Let's do that. And remove that. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work for us. It's a shame. But do a quick test now of a quick break. I'll be back in a second. First to finish rendering. Gonna poop? Nah. Need to stretch my legs. That's finished rendering. Let's go to save. Do it at the same time. Might be a while. Right, so this object here is a player. So I lift it up, player falls back to the ground. Have you ever evolved a Magikarp in Pokemon Go? Don't think I have yet. Or have I? I might have done. Let's have a look. It takes a while. It takes a long, long time. Okay, that triggered. If I move this out here, move it back again. It's kind of doing something. Still moving too quickly than I'd like. At 89 candies now, at 400. Wow. It's a challenge I have now for my Mew challenge. Oh. This kind of works. See, it's moving. Moves when that gets close. So we'll hit stop on that. Right, I'll take a quick break. I'll be back in a few minutes. Challenge within the longer Mew quest I have is Evolve Magikarp. Do 10 raid battles. Raids are the big ones. Not the usual. Yeah, I've not actually done a raid before. I should be back in a moment. Doing very well. And then we'll try and refine this thing. Done 2, which is why I have 2 Mewtwo. Ooh. Yeah, we need to look at those challenges. Right, back in a sec. Wanted to make sure Damien was okay. Now he's back and still selling emotes. Still sell the best emotes. Welcome back, Lisa. Oh, was he? Yeah. Basically, my brother has gone on holiday. Kind of gone to a wedding. But he's going to be away for a couple of days. So we're looking after his dog. And of course, they don't sort of... They basically want to be Damien's friend. And Damien is like, I don't like dogs. You keep away from me. But my parents have walked the dog back to their place. And they're going to stay the night there. So Damien has the house to kind of chill without worrying about being woken up by a wet nose. So I just reassured him that there is no dog in the house. And he seems happier now. Just checked the cameras. My parents left about 45 minutes ago, and Damien still thought the dog was around. So I thought, okay, I'll go check on him, see if he's okay. Let's make this... make it 30. Cool. We'll save the project. Play. So with the increased delay, in theory, it should take a bit more time to react. So the first thing it'll do is it's supposed to be sat in the part of the rock stage. So first thing it does when the player approaches, it wakes up. What I do need to do is work out if the player is still in this area, that it then goes on to the next stage. But at the moment I have to move the player out of the range, put the player back into the range. So it's still going too quickly for my liking. The other thing I need to do is you can see it's trying to lean towards the player. But all I want it to really do is face the direction of the player, not move its entire body at the player. Which is why it's a bit sort of, the model's jerking about a bit. So look, rotation. So if I take the direction, normalize unit vector, I basically only want two of the vectors, the X and the Z. So I only want X and Z. Y, I don't need Y in there. So I could go direction Yeah, that's it. So Y will keep the rotation on the horizontal plane. I'm going to put that up to 60. 120. Let's try this. So it shouldn't be, the model shouldn't be jerking around too much now. But it should rotate on the spot, which again isn't perfect. Like, ideally I would like to have a turning animation where it's kind of moving its feet to turn itself, not just kind of spin. But we'll go back into Blender possibly for the next stream and make a turning animation. It's still, maybe because the model's maybe because the model isn't got the right rotation on it. It's still, oops, giving up. So why is the Y still? So the Y is still saying it's 0.5. I'm thinking what I probably should do is put the code onto the parent. So I have the code onto this object. And then this is just the, we can grab the animator and do the animation stuff from here. Maybe that would work better. And again, I can swap out stuff a bit easier then. Let's hit stop. We'll make a copy. Duplicate. Let's remove that. Let's try this as an option. So that, disable that one. So this, so we've got a box collider there, a rigid body. So we want the, remove the controller script from here. Remove component. Then put the controller script on the parent. We can put the capsule collider on the parent as well. Remove components, capsule collider radius, height. And that capsule collider is a trigger. What's left on the box collider, which is actually on the model itself. And we've got the animator. So we go to the code now. So the animator's there. So it gets the components animator. But I could change that to get the child. We'll remove the script from this one. And rather than getting from the parent, we just go get component rigid body. I'll make a note in case we have to go back. We made a note of what it was. Now the animator now is animator transform child get component animator. So it gets the first object as a child. We go back to the editor. So anything inside the parent object is a child object. And the first child object in the list, which is the only one, which is the rock golem, it then grabs the animator from that. So that's fine. So I think the rest of this should then apply to its parents rather than the... Yeah, let's see how this works. Let's go save. And run. Now I'll move the player into position. Cool, so that now triggers off the assembling animation. So move it outside the range, go back inside the range. Ah, look at that, that's so much better. The speed at which it turns, I want to slow that down. But the delay of it turning, I think is a lot better. Like the player's running around, it runs over here. You want it to take a moment to realise the player's moved. At the same time, I also want this rotation to happen a bit slower. But that looks a lot better. I'm liking how that's working so far. Okay, let's work out how we can slow down the rotation. That just kind of sets it. Delta time times 2. So we want that as a rotation speed, really, don't we? Rotation speed. So save. Rotation speeds on the side is we can change this mid-flow of the game. So move it into range. Trigger is assembling animation. Let's go back to the golem here. Let's change that speed to 20. I'm not sure if that makes it faster or slow. We'll find out. Definitely faster. Okay. So it was 5. Let's make that 1. Oh, look at that. That's probably more golem speed of turning, isn't it? So I just need to make an animation of it turning. And play that animation when it turns. So the player runs off. At this point the player is exited. So I'd probably go into scan mode, so it just kind of looks around and goes, where's the player just gone? Looks around. And if it just finds the player, then it carries on what it was doing. If it doesn't, then go to disassemble mode. The player runs off behind it, tries to do a sneak attack, comes up behind, and then turns to face the player. He goes running off, comes over here, does another sneak attack from behind, he slowly turns around to face the player. I think that's the right kind of speed. So we go back to the code. So it kind of almost needs a turning state, I suppose. Let's go into states. Walking, attacking, turning. Turning. So Let's make a walking, turning. It's about turning in here. Private void turning. So set animation trigger turn. Only thing is, how do I know if it's facing the player now? So we have to do a comparison between these two. If angle rotation, look rotation is greater than 5, then turn. Okay, yeah. Yes. Does mean we need to go into the animations and make sure we've got a turn as an option. There's the animator. Create a state. And call that turning. Turning. And we'll create a trigger. It's a Boolean, which is turn. And put that up there. What are these then? That's got a different shape. You're walking. That's a trigger, it needs to be. It needs to be a trigger called turn. Or Boolean. Trigger turn. So we don't have a motion aside in this yet. So we need to make next Monday we'll make an animation for turning. And we can probably remake the attack animation. Save that. we need to work out as well. Right. I lost. No, it's back again. Lost the microphone for a moment there. Do a quick Google because I want to find out how do I reset the on trigger. On trigger. Trigger resetting. When the on trigger event gets called after I place the piece on the board, check to see the board's triggered. Yeah, on collision. I want to basically trigger it again. Unusual case of two objects that's touching. This will trigger the on collision until now we change ownership for one of them to the multiplayer VR. There's one possibility, turn it on and off. So after the assembling, so assembling sets it to awake. Maybe that should be after the animation. It says only sets the trigger. There needs to be a timeout that resets the trigger. I wonder if I can do something on change when that state is changed. Is there something for that? Let's have a look. I suppose it'd be an event, wouldn't it? It'd be on event of value change. When the value of an element changes, a change event is sent. This is typically set when the value of a field control changes. Use a toggle's checkbox change events. Okay, look, see if we can use this. Maybe it's not giving me information I need there. Let's go back. UI toggle on value change. It's not the UI though. On value change function. So if I can get a function that runs every time I change whatever current state is. The alternative is I just write my own thing. Which is I would have to put it every time I do this and write current state equals, and then have to follow it up with state changed. I would quite like I like the code to actually track that. Let's ask a different question, because maybe it's not a value, it's a C#. Trigger event on variable change. That's probably what I need. You like the newts we found today? Yes, I like things like newts. They're very cute. Now we occasionally get newts around the UK, but again, because they're so small, you tend to see them. There are some endangered species of newt. That if you spot any, you have to immediately alert the appropriate authorities to say, well, you've spotted it, log it, and if you're doing any change to the environment, you have to stop changing the environment immediately. So if you're trying to build a new extension to a house or build something, you have to stop doing it until the Environment Agency checks on the newt. Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to write this manually. There might be a better way, but for now, we'll do this. So we'll make another variable up here and go private boolean. State changed false. And anywhere I've got state changes, I'm going to have to go true. No state change. So the only problem with doing what I'm doing here is that I could easily miss where the state has been changed. Now, I suppose that could be a property. Then you can do a trigger on the property changing. But yeah, I'll need to look into properties. I have to go and change it again because that's not going to do much. Unless I have another thing here. So if that's not all. The player is not null and vector distance is attack range. As if player is not null and distance is in scan range. If player is not null walking. Now it's current state idle. This bit I like. That doesn't make sense. That needs a bit of work to make it make sense. If I set idle, is to change true, animators not null, set to idle. But that's the kind of redundant things. We got a sort of disassemble there. So I will comment out that for now. But I like the right kind of track it is on. This bit here, I think it's okay. So it's walking, if it's idle. Player is not null, and then we're doing a targeting thing. Player is not null, and within attack range. I have attack range, don't I? Attack range. Then attack. What I did want to do is if set as change, set to false. Do I want to say false? Start straight away. I want a timer. So private int what should we call it? State change timer. If right, so if it's greater than or equal to 30, then set it to false. Then reset the time, if not increment size. So this is where I need to make a function actually. Make life a bit easier. Private void state. That's changed. Go to sleep now. Have a great rest of your stream. Okay, Lisa, thank you for hanging out. I'm going to wrap up very shortly. Just want to get this down before I forget. So I hope you have a good rest, and I shall see you on Wednesday. So it's changed. And state. Change timer is 0. Okay, so set is true, and what if it's greater or equal to 30, then set it to false, so that's timer back to 0. And what we want to do what am I trying to do in the end? So it's resetting the collider. So that goes to 0. And then we want the collider. Which is where we need a collider being recorded. Private collider, collider, and then in start we grab the collider. So at that point there, we the collider dot enabled. So we disable it and re-enable it. So it's 30 frames, and then it will reset the collider and go, ah, something's in the collider, hopefully. We'll give this a quick test and then we'll wrap the stream up then. Oh, doesn't like this. What's that? Didn't like something there. It disappeared. Sliders active. What is its state? State is turning. But it doesn't actually have something to do with turning. Okay, we'll come back to that next week. Made some progress though. Cool, cool. Yeah, thank you everyone for being here. You're all awesome. But we're making progress. I say the work I'm doing on this, I can then apply to all the enemies, and with a slight tweak to make it more unique. But that's where all the systems come into play. There's exciting stuff. You have a whole horde of these things all coming at you. But yeah, I'm going to get some rest now. Hope you too. So thanks all everyone for joining, whether you've been chatting or lurking. I'll see you awesome lurkers on the side there. And good night indeed. I'll be back on Wednesday playing Trine 5. We'll be getting closer and closer towards the end. No! I'm too late. Oh no, MHL. Oh no. Sorry dude. Yeah, just wrapping up now. But thank you for dropping in. So you have to go back and watch the VOD. Good night then. Yeah, good night. Thank you for saying hello. I'll be back on Wednesday. But we made some progress today with our Rock Golem guy. But hope you have a good rest. Enjoy your week. I'll be back on Wednesday. So I'll see you then. Good night all.